Alright, Tyler Perry fans, this is a video where I'll go over a few, probably 5. And I know this sounds like an oxymoron or something like that, but the top 5 unpopular opinions that fans have about Tyler Perry. Now, again, this is pretty much me talking about consistent things I continue to hear about Tyler Perry online. Things that go, trend on Twitter, articles and opinion pieces people submit to me on social media for me to, look over and, give my thoughts or 2 cents on. So let me just say up front, this is not a video bashing Tyler Perry. This is a video where I'll go over some of the popular quote unquote concerns and opinions that people have on Tyler Perry and his work. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Again, this is not a Tyler Perry bash video. This is a video going over some of the top things that I see online about him and his work. So just again, that's my disclaimer. Not a bash video, not a rant video. Just talking about some of the unpopular opinions, giving my thoughts, and go from there. So again, not bashing, not trashing, just talking. There we go. I did write down 5 and I put 5 through 1. So don't think it's like, well, hey, this is the number 5, because it's just like I took good notes. That's pretty much it. So number 5 has to do with the accessibility of his work. Some of his best work, for example. Haves and the have-nots, Loving You Is Wrong. They weren't added to Hulu, and you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they weren't even added to Hulu until 2019, 2018. And before that, people had to get the OWN network, the Watch OWN app, things like that. Basically spending extra money to get a network to watch these shows. And I still stand by what I said over the past few years, that the haves and the have-nots could have been so much bigger than it was if it was on a network like BET when it first came out, because the numbers hella impressive during the show's overall run, especially during those first few seasons. But if they were on a BET or a network that a lot more people had, I dare say we would have seen more episodes with 3+ million viewers per week. So when you think about spending extra money for OWN to watch, his shows on there, in the more current time we're in now, you have to get BET Plus to watch Ruthless, which I still stand by what I said. Ruthless, season 1, part 1, that is his best Viacom work. That's not to say the Oval and Sisters hasn't improved or aren't good in their own right, but I think that a lot of people still don't have BET Plus because they don't want to spend the extra money, which makes sense because we live in a streaming era where it's not uncommon for people to have half a dozen, if not more, streaming service subscription to Netflix, Disney, Hulu, ESPN, Paramount Plus, and so many others, that it's like BET Plus, I feel, is at the bottom tier because it doesn't have enough new materials to sustain a streaming service. I still believe that if Tyler Perry put out his own streaming network, it would probably do bigger numbers due to the fact that the man works so hard that he could have so much available work within the span of 3 or 4 months to keep that platform alive and well, to have new material every single week. I don't think he would put out every single show at once, but I feel like he could put out at least a couple episodes per week of this show or that show to keep the streaming service alive, because BET Plus, and I'll do a separate video because there have been a couple people asking my thoughts on BET Plus and if it can survive for only so much, is it on a expiration date? Because with so many other streaming platforms, the numbers might not be enough to sustain, unless it just merges with, let's say, Paramount Plus. That's going to be its own video. But I feel like some of the best Tyler Perry material isn't available to everyone. I mean, technically it is, but only if you pay. And I'm not complaining because I pay for my subscription. But at the end of the day, I'm just thinking about the reality of all these streaming services. If I had to say like my top 5, BET Plus would not be in my top 5. The accessibility of the haves and the have-nots on their own network, because, you know, over the years people have said I stopped watching for years, not because of a lack of interest, but my cable provider doesn't have OWN anymore. There's been a list of not excuses, but legitimate reasons as to why they weren't able to keep up on OWN because of this, and this. So I feel like the accessibility is definitely a turnoff for a lot of people. And it is a tough pill to swallow that in today's world. If you want a lot of, you know, some of your favorite shows, movies, especially reboots and whatnot, you have to pay extra. I mean, for me personally, since I've been at home, you know, I gave up Netflix because it's like I don't even watch Netflix. Like, talking about, like, I can't even remember the last time I opened it up to watch something. You know, aside from like when the Upshaw season 2 come out, I'm definitely getting back for that. But when it comes to BET Plus, it's like, unless it's ruthless, a lot of fans are like, I'm not doing it. But I think that, you know, with All the Queen's Men coming out in a couple of months, and that could potentially be one of the best Tyler Perry projects ever, it's going to be on BET Plus. It's not going to be on BET. So I feel like, you know, unless people like me and some others review it, a lot of people won't even know about it. You know, like, unless they see it on some secondhand websites, which they probably can, but, you know, it is what it is. So that's why I say, like, you know, a lot of fans say that one of the unpopular things about Tyler Perry Media is a lot of the best stuff isn't available to everyone for free. Number 4, has his best days, you know, already gone by? You know, like, have we already seen Tyler Perry at his best? And, you know, that's like his best projects. This is an interesting one, because it's like I said in my video about, you know, does Tyler Perry have any interest in bringing back the haves and the have-nots? I could probably say no, because of the fact that when you look at somebody who is just starting out to get that success, you know, when they just start making a little bit of money, when they just start their like first deal or whatever, they're putting their best foot forward. We're seeing some of their strongest projects. But as the success grows, it's like they're able to do whatever they want. You know, like, they don't feel restricted as, okay, this is my one shot to make it to the big time, so I need to put my best foot forward. I need to have like a director or writer or whatever. So this show, this movie is going to be great. But then when you reach a certain level of, okay, well, I'm my own boss, I can do whatever I want, I'll just put out anything and people will watch it. Well, why argue with that formula? Sure, the reviews and critiques and whatnot might not be stellar, but at the end of the day, the ratings are high. So I'll say this. I would say that I don't think we've seen the best Tyler Perry can do, because if you look at the Tyler Perry now, with the money and resources he has compared to where he started out, I mean, to be honest, if you look at some of the earlier plays and movies and shows, and I've said this time and time again, I feel like that's where he was really in his bag. It's like, you know, Iron Man, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps, you know, where he didn't have a high budget. He was able to put out some of his strongest works. But when you're looking at a man with so many resources and whatnot now, it's like, you know, I'm not struggling, so why should I put all my effort into one project when I can do 15 different projects? So I feel like, since he's actually hired writers and directors now, wait, that sounded weird, writers and directors now, I feel like if Tyler focused on one thing, if he did like one great movie, one great season of a show, one great play, whatever, I think he can knock it out of the ballpark. So I don't think we've seen his best. It's just that I don't think he thinks he needs to put out his best because of where he's at in his career. And honestly, I can't fault him for that. But it's frustrating because it's like, bro, billionaire status. Let's see you put out like the best movie you've ever done, you know? But I will say, what's it called? Jazz Band's Blues. That was like one of his first screenplays he wrote back in like 15, 20 years ago. So him making that movie with the resources that he has now, this could arguably be his best film. Possibly. I hope it is. But only time will tell. Number 3. This kind of goes hand in hand with number 4. Tyler Perry only works for the money, not the quality. But isn't every business that way? What about Apple? All these companies where, they create this technology and you could tell it has like a certain time. Wasn't it Apple or one of these companies that it was discovered, or they admitted that they actually wrecked their own product, where they actually break their own phones and whatnot? Like, when a person buys a phone, like, at a certain time it's meant to break, so they'll either get a replacement or submit their phone to the Apple store or whatever so it can get repaired, basically to create more money for themselves by having people pay for that stuff. So it's kind of like, when I worked for Liberty University all those years, it's like, when I was in training, it's like, this is a Christian university, but at the end of the day, they're a business like any other school. The way they handle things, the way they do certain things to get money and this and that, it's like, it's all, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on the outside, but when you get in the inner workings, it's like a rabid dog. It's like, oh shit, this is dark and scary. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, especially when Tyler Perry was allowed to do what Tyler Perry does, where he just does a crap ton of projects, it's like, you can tell where sometimes it's like cutting corners for the sake of product over quality. And when I say product, I mean quantity over quality. That's essentially what it is. But, I feel like in a sense it's kind of canceled out by the fact that by him creating more shows and projects, then he's creating more job opportunities for actors who really weren't acting that much, or, having a lot of work. But at the same time, it's like, it's great that they're doing that, but if they're not able to put out quality content, when you're working on a Tyler Perry project, are you working on a project that you feel proud to add to your film, your reel as an actor? Or when you put that on, like, your IMDb, or you submit that to like a Hollywood producer or whatever, if you're trying to get a role in another movie, it is what it is. But I feel like number 3 is subjective, because all businesses are like that, but not all businesses are like that, if you know what I mean, where all businesses are in the business of making money, but not everybody rushes out content for the sake of quantity as opposed to quality. Like, there are people who submit movies that aren't filmed in 10 days, but they overall bring in a lot more in the box office, and they get a lot of return on their investment. TV shows that spend months filming a handful of episodes, but those episodes are well received compared to the critiques of like a 25 episode season of a Tyler Perry show. So it's all subjective. Number 2, Madea is overrated. I said this for a while. I kind of was over Madea after like the Halloween movies and stuff like that, because for me it was just the fact that we were seeing Madea telling it's like, a Def Comedy Jam comic back in like the 90s telling the same jokes in like 2015. It's like, come on, man, where's the new material? For me, I feel like that's what Madea was. But, and I'm not stepping back on what I've said about that. I'm saying that I kind of get it, because when you think about Tyler Perry from the plays and the early movies, he was big, but there were probably still people who didn't know about him. So when he was telling the jokes in like 2015 that I remember him saying back in his early plays, it was probably done in the sense that, oh, well, there's a completely new audience out there that hasn't seen these, or heard these jokes. But I feel like Madea became more of a caricature than a character, because even in the early plays and whatnot, Madea was obviously the comic relief, but she had some of the best motivational speeches, and even though she doesn't go to church and whatnot, she was giving some sound advice about how to be a strong, good person, even if she didn't really have, I guess you could say, quote unquote, the Christian background like a Brown or a Cora, for example, because of the fact that when you look at Madea versus Mr. Brown, oh, I'm a deacon, oh, I'm in the church and everything. It's like Mr. Brown was really more of a comic relief character than Madea, because that's how it is sometimes, where it's like in real life, the people who go to church, praise Jesus and whatnot, they're more into the hypocritical side of things where they'll talk down to people or make fun of people, as opposed to sitting them down and giving them some wise advice. Because it's like, sometimes that stranger on the corner who might be a crackhead will give you some sound life advice that even your, teachers or parents will give you. So, I mean, I feel like in a way Madea is overrated, but with Tyler Perry bringing her back, I feel like this is in the spirit of fun. And I feel like in upcoming, the Madea Homecoming and then the Mabel series, which I cannot wait for that one, I feel like we're probably going to see a new Madea that we haven't seen before, but at the same time, bringing her back for familiarity purposes. So I do think that in a way Madea is overrated, but if you are a character of $1 billion franchise, I feel like overrated is a term that, well, overrated, but I made $1 billion. So, I mean, what can you say about that? Haha. And then finally, number one, and this is something personal for me, and this is an opinion of merchandising. And I even mentioned this on a post a few days ago about like Funko Pops. Like there could be an entire like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 of just Madea. Like Madea and her various outfits and whatnot. I feel like Tyler Perry, believe it or not, a lot of these opinions kind of feel wrapped together from the accessibility of his work, from the quality of the work for the sake of money. Have we seen his best? Is Madea overrated? I feel like there has been a completely empty market of Tyler Perry that he should expand on, which is merchandise. I mean, I remember where the Tyler Perry website used to have merchandise, but I wouldn't buy it because it was too expensive, from like the water bottles, the t-shirts. But I actually do have a Tyler Perry Studio shirt coming in the mail today. It's July 30th when I'm recording this. I bought it on Amazon because typically, when online stores and whatnot seem to stop selling stuff, you can usually find the merch on other websites. So I just typed in Tyler Perry Studio t-shirts because I was like pumped up for the reunion. Yeah. And I was like, I want to rock this shirt, but in a video or a live stream. But then I found the shirt for like $20, and yeah, I told my mom, yeah, if I like it when it gets here, I'll definitely buy you one in your size. And I even bought a haves and have not shirt. Yeah. On the day of the reunion that morning from like a secondhand website, which I felt was a bit risky, but I had some people tell me, no, I've been buying from this person for a while and stuff, and the shirt's on the way, so that shirt's going to be fun. But in any case, I think I feel like the TBS days were definitely the highlight of Tyler Perry, from like House of Pain, Meet the Browns on DVD and whatnot, but everything else on OWN, I don't know if it has to do with distribution rights or what, but those shows just haven't been placed on DVD. Love Thy Neighbor, yeah, if Love Thy Neighbor was on DVD, I would definitely buy it, at least the first season. But if Loving You Is Wrong, Have Nots, I feel like we all would love DVD, Blu-ray releases of that. On top of that, let's take it to another level. T-shirts of the various characters. I mean, I feel like, yeah, there will have to be a slice of the pie cut for those, like Alex or whatever. If they're, I think, what is it called? The profit from likeness. Like, hey, if I sign this contract, then I'm entitled to like a cut of the money if you sell an action figure based off me. Kind of like that, Funko Pops or whatever. Or even like character quotes. Who wouldn't love a bookmark with like some of the David Harrington quotes, like "I'll handle it" or anything like that? I would love notebooks. Hell, I'm talking like I'm a back to school student, getting supply lists. But t-shirts, hoodies. I feel like Tyler Perry is missing out on an entire market to bring in a lot of money. Like imagine going to like a play or a Tyler Perry movie, and then there's merchandise available for sale. So Tyler Perry Studios, if there's anybody listening, I definitely recommend considering merchandising. So overall, that's all I have for this particular video. Let me know what other popular, unpopular Tyler Perry opinions do you hear out there? And notice I didn't say anything about the whole he needs writers and whatnot. I didn't say that because, well, he has hired writers, he has hired directors. It's just people who are so used to ragging on him for not having writers and directors. I was one of them. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. But I am giving the man props for what he's doing in the now, which is indeed giving opportunities to writers and directors. Hell, some of the cast on some of his shows are in the director's chair or writing episodes now. So please do your homework, people. Do your homework. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video.